Hello and welcome to Chapter 6, Agentic AI Practical Use Cases. In this chapter, we're going to look at a number of different assistants that we can build with ChatGPT's agent mode. We're going to kick things off by creating a cash flow variance assistant. Then we're going to create a cash flow forecasting assistant. Then we're going to kind of bring it back to the GL team and look at a bank reconciliation assistant that we can create. And then we're going to wrap up this chapter by talking about some additional use cases that we can consider when using ChatGPT's agent mode. Now, before we do that, I want to share a quick note from one of my absolute favorite historical figures. Now, this quote came from Alan Turing. He was the father of modern computing, and he laid, the groundwork for computer science, and more famously, as you may have heard his name, from cracking the German Enigma code during World War II. Now, Alan said that a computer would deserve to be called intelligent if it could deceive a human into believing that it was human. And I think I agree with Alan's sentiment here. And let's face it, this is the reality that we're living in today. And while some outputs from AI continue to be very much apparently generated by AI, there are others that are much, much harder to detect. And with that, let's go ahead and look at our first agentic AI use case. And we're going to focus on creating a cash flow variance assistant. And before I get into this use case, I want to very briefly revisit when to use, the core large language model functionality versus agent mode. Now, we use the core functionality for a single interaction with the model when we're typically seeking a single output. What we're going to do is use agent mode for more goal-oriented, multi-step interactions that need to happen. Agents are able to break down tasks into specific steps and decide what to do next. They can leverage tools that they've used in the past as part of that framework and maintain their state across these steps. Now, as you think about finance workflows and cash flow variance analysis being one of them, they're naturally agentic. When you think about it, finance has always been agentic, but we, the humans, were the agents. The time we spend, you think about pulling data, cleaning it, comparing data sets across different periods of time, flagging exceptions, and then taking all of that and drafting commentary to share with leadership. These are all tasks an agent can perform autonomously. So let's bring this logic now into our cash flow variance use case. And let's assume that you have been asked to prepare, a month-over-month cash flow variance analysis. I want you to think about the steps that you take and which of these can be automated versus those that require some level of judgment. In terms of the steps that we can automate, I think that includes extracting of bank balances, comparing of those balances period over period, actually calculating the variances, flagging any transactions or lines within the analysis that are above predefined thresholds, and even drafting the initial explanations for those variances, all things that can be automated. And then, of course, there are pieces that require some level of human judgment. For example, whether a variance that we found is acceptable or not, whether that explanation that's been provided is sufficient, or whether we need additional details or need to go a bit deeper in our explanation. Also, how to communicate these variances externally. So making sure that we can leverage the model to get the right output and tone that we need, but ultimately we are the ones responsible for communicating to our stakeholders. And then ultimately signing off on the variance analysis, making sure that human judgment layer is there before we go ahead and sign off and call that variance analysis complete. So with that, I want to make this lesson very practical. We're going to see how we can convert this process into an agent by providing very explicit instructions. So let's go ahead and hop over to ChatGPT and explore its agent mode functionality.